recognize Laura Morris. She's our board chair. And Laura, you want to wave to the group? And she's the board chair for the National Consortium for Health Science Education. And we co-sponsor these webinars with the Health Science Educators Association. So I know we have, Susie, you want to introduce yourself? You can unmute there and do that.
Yes, my name's Susie McCatherine Lauer, and I'm part of the professional development crew on the HSEA board.
Yeah, so we're happy that Susie's here with us today, and she'll be helping host some of the webinars in the future. So with that, I just wanted to mention, and it was mentioned also in your email that you got reminding you about the webinar today. If you're interested in a certificate of participation for 1 hour of professional development, you can just send that request to our executive assistant, and I'm going to put her email address here in the chat, but you also have it in your email that you received from us. So if you need a certificate of participation, you're welcome to request that. So lastly, I'm just happy to turn the microphone over to our presenters today. And we've had a long-term partnership with Cengage National Geographic Learning, and I had a call with them earlier this week just to practice and get ready for today. And I told them my claim to fame was that I was probably the first person in America who used the diversified health occupations, as it was called. And that was 35 years ago, I think, because I can remember because my child was 3 weeks old when I went to the classroom. All that to say, what a standard that book has been for health science programs across the nation. So they're going to engage you today, and Noe and Mark are here, and I'll let them tell you a little bit about what they do and who they are. And with that, I'm passing the mic to my friends.
Good. Thanks so much, Nancy. And thanks to both organizations for the opportunity to have us and to share some of our knowledge with your members and others. And for all the teachers here, obviously, thank you for, like Nancy said, taking even a short amount of time in your day to be with us to learn a little bit about simulations. I'll introduce myself first, and then Noe can do that for himself as well. My name is Mark Hoffman. I am the product marketing manager here at National Geographic Learning, Cengage, for science products and our health science programs, including some of the things that we'll be talking about with simulations today. Noe?
Thanks, Mark. My name is Noe Macias, and I'm the customer success consultant for Nat Geo. And I help teachers really with delivering content to their classrooms and how to help them deliver digital courses and train them on simulations and how to develop and customize their courses in their classroom specifically. So I really help teachers one by one on how to deliver all that virtually, or hopefully when we get back in person, obviously, as well.
Yep, we've all been behind our desks instead of in front of you all, which is where we want to be, talking directly in person in the same room. So we will get there, surely. We wanted to kick it off today by introducing a short video that actually is kind of a kickoff to one of the simulations that we'll be talking about today in our DHO, the program that Nancy mentioned. This video is the sort of very beginning of a longer story of several characters. So we wanted to start with this. We'll be visiting these characters a few more times a little bit later in the presentation, but we wanted to introduce you to who they are now. And then we'll come back to them. We think this is a kind of a good, compelling way that's speaking at students' level about kind of their lives now and what impact healthcare professionals have in their lives. So go ahead.
Hey, did you finish your final?
I just finished my last final. I'm finally free.
Congrats. This weekend is going to be epic.
I know, I'm so excited. So listen, I'm like leaving my house now. I'm thinking I'll be there in like 2 hours. Did your parents give you the keys to the convertible?
They sure did.
Awesome, I'm so excited.
Me too. Drive safe.
Okay, babe, I will. I'll see you soon. Where am I? I knew I should have taken a right back there.
So that might look familiar to some of your students. I regret to say that many of us are still guilty of looking at our phones when we shouldn't be. And obviously it's caused a problem for our main character here. That because it's sort of very familiar to students, and it is a cautionary tale, that just begins a narrative with that character recovering from injuries of that crash. So we'll dive back into that story, meet her family, and a lot of other people who are helping her out of that situation. But before we do, I just wanted to take a chance and talk a little bit about some of the benefits of using digital simulations and videos like the one we saw in classrooms. A lot of these might be pretty straightforward, but we'll go through them. There may be some things that are new or different angles or perspectives that might be enlightening. But this is really talking about digital simulations in comparison to an actual hands-on or live simulation with a dummy or some such thing. So doing it digitally, you're entirely safe, as well as students. There are some risks where people are interacting with devices or other people. Doing this all online is a way to know that students are in a completely safe environment. The only danger is their clicking finger might get a little sore if they're in these digital simulations a lot, or eye strain or some such thing. But the point is that these are going to give a really quality experience in a safe environment. They're also repeatable. Obviously, with digital access to simulations, students can go back, restart them, do them over and over, practice with them repeatedly, so that they can get unlimited number of practice on the same skill over and over. These are also available anytime, right? If you're meeting with a group of students and practicing role play scenarios or simulations that way, it requires everyone to sort of be together and be available all at the same time. With these digital simulations, they're accessible. They never go to sleep, right? They're always available. These simulations can be manipulated by students, in the middle of the night, or in the middle of the afternoon. So it doesn't require any organization or phone calls or It's just always right there. When it's something digital, it's at your fingertips whenever you want it and need it. Students are also obviously learning by doing. That one is pretty self-explanatory, but the point here is that these digital simulations are going above and beyond just simply reading about a procedure or process, and even going beyond watching just a static video about these. Students are actually getting an opportunity to manipulate and change things in their digital environment, which actually can change the course of the story or change an action. So that's the doing part. It's just moving above and beyond simple text and above and beyond just kind of a static video. We've got a few more. Yeah, thanks, Noe. The other great thing that simulations can include, if the people who've made them have made it available, is feedback from the simulation itself on how students are actually doing in their responses or doing in their input of information. Obviously, at the end, a simulation can give some sort of score or evaluation. But what's great about a digital simulation is that if done right, the simulation can actually provide information to students as they're working through it, to provide, either guidance or tips or hints or advice. So getting feedback on responses as you go is even better than getting a score or a grade once you've completed it. And then being able, again, with the previous comment about being repeatable, it's an opportunity to make improvements consistently and continuously on the skill that's being targeted in that simulation. So when that feedback is incorporated into a simulation, you're really providing students with setting them up for the greatest success, even above and beyond working in groups or waiting for feedback, from a teacher or other students in a class. And then finally, it does have the opportunity to provide some real guidance, either from real professionals, if those are built in, or something that is kind of pre-recorded or pre-embedded into the simulation. So these can be, people from a teacher figure or a colleague figure, but we have some, in our simulations, we have this real-time guidance at the point of use when students need it. And that's even different than feedback or evaluation, which happens after. This is providing guidance for students if they need it, when they need it, and focusing specifically on that small section of the task of that simulation. So those are some key things to look out for when you're evaluating and looking for simulations, if they're including these types of things. Next slide, Noe, and then we'll kind of get back into our videos and see some examples of simulations. But another factor of simulations, not all of them have them, but whether they're actually responding to what students are inputting into them, if they have the ability to actually change the course of action within the simulation if students take a certain course. So this is sort of like the choose your own adventure books that some of us may remember as kids. If you decide to steal your friend's toy, you may have a different result than if you decide to share the toy. And this is the same idea here, that if a student decides to take a certain course of action, the story can actually end in a different place. And that's a bit more advanced style of simulation, but is definitely based more on reality, right? We're all making choices in our professional and personal lives that change the future outcomes. So when a simulation is set up with the ability to actually go down different paths, then instead of just following on a linear or prescribed path, there are benefits to those as well. But there is also great benefit to having the storyline or the result actually change based on what students do within the simulation. And then I think one of this sort of saving the best for last, but one of the greatest benefits to students in using digital simulations is that they are being encouraged at multiple steps throughout the process to make critical decisions and think critically about what they need to do next. It allows students in a digital simulation, as they're practicing a new skill, to actually pause. If it's a simulation that's digital, it's just sort of waiting for a response, they can actually take a break, pause, stop to think about what the best response might be or best course of action might be before they jump in. And that really does allow students to be a little more free and flexible and have the freedom to actually make a mistake, but also with the repeatability aspect of them to go back and learn from those mistakes, to correct errors, to make different decisions if they've been provided feedback on a response or task that they've done, to actually, you know, make that mistake in a safe, controlled digital environment instead of with real people where somebody, you know, could be impacted, and really improve their decision-making skills. But also, if they do happen to make a mistake in the process, that they understand what sorts of consequences can come from those actions. And in healthcare, that is such a critical aspect of student learning, is understanding what is the most critical things to get right for patient safety and for accuracy and recording and reporting and, you know, pharmacy dosage. Students are learning very detailed oriented skills, and knowing that if they do make a mistake, that there are consequences is very important, especially with this age group, which often may think that they're indestructible, often think that their decisions are typically the best, but seeing a way that these simulations can show perhaps some negative things that come from making a mistake that actually impact other people is such a critical skill for students to understand as they're working through these simulations. So those are a couple of things that are just really hitting home on how important and critical digital simulations can be, above and beyond either reading about a skill or process in text, or even watching a video, but also even working with other students in groups or role play type of simulations. These are just so rich and wealthy in the ability for students to come out the other end of using simulations with greater knowledge and better decision-making skills. We'll learn about a few other benefits, but I did want to pass this back to Noe and take a look at some other examples of simulations that are available in our programs. We'll be focusing on some of the resources that we've got in our in our catalog and book bag. So Noe, let's see some great examples and talk about where these benefits fit into some of the simulations that we've got available.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I want to go through some of the simulations and what type of simulations your students would be exposed to. This is just kind of a little snapshot of the beauty of our healthcare materials, is that there's so many resources available for the students. One of the difficult things about preparing for today's session was really narrowing down what I wanted to share with you guys today. And the nice thing about having these labs or simulations, it's a safe environment for students to really learn and expose themselves not only to the vocabulary, but also the opportunity to make these decisions in a safe environment. So you can see here, the students will have access to a learning lab. In that learning lab, they'll be able to choose and explore a career path, and it'll give them more information about certain types of careers. As you see here, this is a story that we just saw about the young girl who was texting and driving. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit because we already saw this part. But the beauty.
Let's get her into the ambulance. You're going to be okay, Cindy. Ever since I was a kid, I've looked up to paramedics as.
So I'm going to pause here for a second to see if I can. The student is actually being exposed to different people and careers paths. So as she's getting examined by the paramedics, there's a little short bio that that student is actually exposed to. And that short bio will give them a brief explanation of what their career entails and how they got interested in that particular career. So as you're going through this learning exploration, the student is actually getting exposed to different facets of healthcare, but different departments as well. And I'm going to play you like a little snippet of the scenario as well too, so you can kind of see what that looks like.
Can we page Dr. Torres and a phlebotomist to the trauma room, please? Cindy, hey, I didn't know you were awake. Have you taken any aspirin or?
So they're asking questions and then the bio.
Well, I guess you could say I've been in training for this since high school, when I became a CNA at a local nursing home.
So then there's also a career path where the student can actually examine what type of career they might be interested in. There's some brief information about that as well too. So it's a good career exploration for them to really see if they're fit to be a nurse or a doctor, or a dentist, or a tech lab. So it really kind of helps them with that, but also gives them like responsibilities, what they're going to be responsible for. They can print these out so they can at least have an idea what the responsibilities are going to be if you're a laboratory tech or so on. How many years of schooling is going to be involved, and the salary range of that particular career as well too. So it's just a good introduction to the healthcare career as well for the students. I think that's what makes it really applicable and gravitating towards students, because it's a robust little insight to see what the salary ranges are, but also what the qualifications are going to be for that particular career in there as well. One thing I point out too, you'll notice some of the vocabulary that's pointed out to the patient. And as the patient is going through different stages of her healthcare or being cared for, she's introduced to different people throughout this journey as well, which will help her really kind of learn about the whole medical plan as well. Another thing you'll see within the labs are critical thinking activities and challenges, like Mark mentioned before, kind of like choose your own adventure. So use pre-assessment questions for them to answer before they actually get into the lab. And this is what the lab scenario will entail.
No, don't put your hand in there. Let's see. You know, you should never put your hand into a sharps container.
So then the student will be asked to take action on this question.
There are very specific procedures for handling medical waste.
I had a needle stick when I was starting out. Nobody fired me. They were more worried that I might have caught something.
So then the student is supposed to act on this action. What's the next thing that they should do? What's the protocol? So it's a safe environment for the students to, you know, make those decisions. And that's what we're asking them to do, is actually.
Don't worry about that, okay? Come over to the sink. Put your hand under the water.
So these videos will kind of help.
You're not the first person here to get a needle stick.
Students
Sure.
processes.
Okay, okay,
involved.
good.
You chose the absolute correct course of action for the receptionist.
You're not the first person here to get a needle stick. Okay? Okay, good.
You chose the absolute correct course of action for the receptionist.
Good.
So, and sometimes they may not choose the right one, which is okay, because this is a safe environment. And that little moderator will tell them, hey, this is the best solution or not, or you should have done this instead. So it's a safe environment to kind of learn, because these are going to be real scenarios that they're going to be exposed to.
Is critical in the context of
Not only that, you're also going to have, learning labs built into the program as well. So I'm going to play this so you can kind of see different types of labs that are embedded in there as well.
knowledge of the human body's structure and systems is fundamental to understanding the role they play in health and disease. Mastery is critical in the context of professional communications and patient care. Anatomy and Physiology Learning Lab helps new learners accelerate mastery through rich media immersion and clinical applications. First, learners are introduced to the basics of anatomy, including cells, tissues, and organs.
Over the long term, the increase in blood flow leads to an increase in concentration of oxygen in the blood.
Next, learners explore each of the major body systems through real-life clinical examples of relevant pathology and optimal function.
And I started feeling this pain in the back of my right leg, right about here.
As well as visually rich learning activities to reinforce key concepts and application. Detailed medical animations and illustrations are placed throughout the product to engage students and visual.
So then we have different types of simulations as well too, for medical coding as well. So there's a plethora of types of different types of simulations based off of the course that you may be teaching. And then you also will have a pronunciation practice, which I thought was pretty cool. And I'm going to actually show you this live as well, where students can actually practice their pronunciation of the healthcare words and verbiage as well too. So let me share that. I'm going to go in live and show you what that kind of looks like, because I think it's kind of it's a fun tool to use in the classroom. So all these simulations are going to be embedded into what we call the MindTap platform. MindTap is basically the shell where you will find the all the simulations embedded into a particular course, but then you also have access to the ebook that's tied to that particular section as well too. I kind of preloaded some of the popular books that we've seen in the K-12 market as well. So I kind of want to show you what this would look like. You would launch your course, but I specifically want to show you some of the pronunciation practices, some of the video simulations as well too, that are embedded into the program. So the nice thing is that all of this is already pre-made for you, and you just basically have to create your course, and the students will have access to these pronunciation practices. So if you click on pronunciation, it's going to open up that tool for your students, and you can see what this looks like by this short little video.
Welcome to the MindTap training video. Pronounce, your healthcare terminology pronunciation tool. Learning medical speak is like learning a foreign language. You don't just have to know the meanings of the words, you have to know how to say them properly. Your skill and confidence as a healthcare professional soars when you can talk the talk. And that's why MindTap developed Pronounce, a tool to help you practice the proper pronunciation of hundreds of medical terms. Pronounce shows you how each word is pronounced, lets you hear it pronounced correctly,
atelectasis,
records your pronunciation, atelectasis, and immediately tells you how you did. You can even listen to yourself. Atelectasis. Think you can do better? Just press record and try again as many times as you want. Most Pronounce exercises are assigned as part of your MindTap coursework.
So students will be able to try that. So let me see if I can actually go in here and show you. Actually, let me see if I can find one. Chapter 10. Let's see if I can pronounce. You would click on this. You open up the software. And again, this is all embedded. There's nothing for the students to download. It's all going to be embedded into the course. And oh my goodness. So let me play this really quick.
acrophobia,
And I can replay it as many times as I want.
Acrophobia.
And then I click record to record myself. Acrophobia. Oh, better than I thought, but I could do better. So then the student can click down and try again, try that word again, or go to the next one.
Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Gave yourself a good one there, Noe. That's
I
a good
know.
one.
I think I picked the hardest ones possible. But you guys get the idea. You'll be able to record yourself. The student can hear this, especially if you have students of different language or English isn't their first language. This is a great tool, study tool to really help them become confident. And it's all about building that confidence for that student as well too. So you can see every chapter is going to have their particular vocabulary for the students to practice that. So that's built in directly into the programs to kind of help them. That's a different type of simulation or just practice problem that's embedded in there. Let me see. And then you also have different simulations embedded as well by the chapter. So from here, let me see if this is the one with, you'll have assessment activities to link vocabulary as well too. But let me go into the different course. I want to show you bodies and structures real quick. So you'll have different learning labs embedded in here as well that you can assign to the students. You'll have reality checks. And again, these are meant to expose students to what they're actually going to be exposed to when they're in their career.
That's right. I'm always hungry and thirsty too. I mean, my wife will yell at me because I'll clean out the fridge before she has a chance to go to the grocery store again. So I can't understand why I'm losing weight.
Okay. Anything else going on?
I'm also exhausted, more than normal. Seems like no matter how much sleep I get, I'm snoring before the end of the evening news.
So the student is presented with a problem or a diagnosis that they have to deliver. And then once they go through the content, they're going to apply what they learned as well throughout the lab. So once they go to the apply yourself, it's going to open up with that video that ties to that opening theme and really provide more information for that student as well too. So it kind of brings closure to that topic, but not only that, it's going to expose them to—
Good morning, Mr. Stewart.
Morning, Doctor.
I believe the last time we met, you had some concerns. You mentioned excessive hunger and fatigue.
That's right.
It's on a different screen, Noe, I think.
Thirsty.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Yeah. There he is.
Okay.
I mean, my wife will yell at me because I'll clean out the fridge before she has a chance to go to the grocery store again. So I can't understand why I'm losing weight.
Okay. Anything else going on?
I'm also exhausted, more than normal. Seems like
is composed of ductless glands that secrete hormones, chemical messengers that control homeostasis. The hypothalamus controls the secretions of the pituitary. Nerve cells in the hypothalamus send releasing hormones to the anterior pituitary to release hormones. Hormones are—
So there's going to be a video, and then they're going to have to go through a learning activity. They're going to have to answer a set of questions, and then if they have
thalamus are stored.
If they get stuck
Oxytocin contracts the pregnant uterus.
on a concept, they're going to have that mentor that's going to pop up. Let me see if I can get him activated here.
Raises the blood count necessary for development. Inhibits the function of the reproductive system. Serotonin acts as a homeostasis, such as when blood glucose levels rise in a patient with diabetes. Let's take a closer look at the endocrine system.
So then the students will have to do the learning activities, and then if they have questions, they would go to that mentor as well too. So these are some of the simulations that you will see in the program, and depending on the course that you're using as well. So let me go back to—
I think there's one more cool one that we wanted to show that
oh, that's right.
yeah, it really does incorporate a lot of the benefits that that I talked about at the beginning. Students are given the opportunity to make choices. They see the consequences of their choices, and the mentor in this case is sort of their boss at a pharmacy, the actual pharmacist who comes in after each little module and gives feedback. So this is there's different levels of these, and this one is maybe one that has the most advanced sort of role-playing type scenario.
So this one, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I can just describe this because students will start at the beginning. They'll go through the tutorial, which shows them how to use this externship for pharmacy technicians. And the scenario is that it's the first day on the job, and the pharmacist introduces himself and asks the student, the virtual student, to work through filling some prescriptions. Pharmacist will check them at the end and say either good job, or if a student did make an error as they were filling that prescription, the pharmacist will mention that and correct them. And then you can see some of these other scenarios where students will interact with a non-English speaking customer and have to make several decisions in how to handle a situation like that. Or the insurance company denies fulfilling a name brand prescription, or the pharmacy runs out of a particular medication. So it's really putting students into real life scenarios virtually that they would encounter as a pharm tech and really have to deal with, make decisions about. And this gives them that chance before they even set foot in a real pharmacy to practice these specific scenarios and get all of those benefits that I talked about at the beginning. Feedback from a mentor, the ability to ask questions along the way, and then just repeatable practice over and over in following the processes and procedures of the inner workings of a pharmacy. So this one is really nice if you're teaching farm tech or pharmacology to take a look at. And the idea with even going back to that very first scenario with the girl texting while driving, that character, as she goes through her recovery, meets over 30 different healthcare professionals. And the process takes a year. At the beginning of each little video clip, you kind of see the date and how long things are taking. And she does make a full recovery, just so you know. But in the process, she's met so many healthcare professionals that she's actually become interested a little bit in going into that field. And she decides to take her exam at the end. And the very last scene, just to kind of close up that story, when students work through all of those labs in that scenario, is that she passes her exam and gets into nursing school because of her experience being a patient and understanding all the intricacies of the people who've helped her along the way. So going back to that original story is a really great opportunity for students in a really kind of unique way to see. And one of the characters she meets is a farm tech, and they interview him and he tells a little bit about his job. So it's really wonderful the way things can be put together in these types of simulations to provide these great experiences and exposure to students to lots of different scenarios and examples in real life. Sorry, Noe, I jumped in. I got really excited about this.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm just going to play off of that, what Mark's saying, like these tutorials, you can see each scenario and they're all real life type situations that at some point you're going to encounter as a pharmacist, or, so we really try to place them in real life scenarios. And it's a safe environment, like I mentioned before again. But the nice thing about that first simulation that we showed you is that the exposure to the whole healthcare spectrum. So it's really, really nice. This one will start off with a tutorial, walking them through what they're going to be expected on their first day and what they're going to be learning as part of their externship as a technician or as a farm tech. So,
and who their partners are, who can help them learn through this as well. So that's important as well.
Hi, and welcome to the first day of your externship here at Hillcrest Pharmacy. I'm Dr. Reynolds, licensed pharmacist on duty. Behind a pharmacy counter, there are a lot of tools to use and procedures to follow when filling prescriptions. So pay attention, because starting tomorrow, you'll be dealing with actual customers. I'll still be around to lend a hand, but you'll be expected to know which steps to take when filling a script. Let's get started.
He's going to walk the students through on what's expected.
First, let's look at the way the simulation works. When a customer hands you a prescription, it appears here on the right half of your screen. It will stay there until you give it to me for checking at the end of each scenario. These icons in the My Resources area let you access the tools and resources that you'll use to complete your work, such as the pharmacy computer, scanners. Selecting this icon brings up
the rest of this one. He just shows how the simulation works, and then students get a chance to go through those scenarios.
Exactly. So all of these are going to be embedded into your course as well. So it's again, they're available to your students to kind of expose them to the reality of what that job will entail. So that's kind of the simulations in a really, really quick snippet. We will post information for you guys you can actually see some of these snippets as well that I will put in the link in the chat so you guys can reference those as well. But I think, anything else you wanted me to show, Mark, on this end, or did you want me to pass it back?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of wrap up here with the last couple of comments. There is one important aspect of all of this that we haven't talked about yet. So I will get a couple more slides at the beginning. That one is that these simulations are really helping students prepare for the various certifications and the various exams, including the National Health Science certification and exam from our group here. It really is preparing students to, master these skills in combination with all the other aspects of typical in-class work, right? Your support as teachers for these students in studying for these and providing them all the other opportunities, including, a quality curriculum, and also, working in groups and doing all those role play scenarios to help them prepare. But these simulations and our programs in particular are setting students up for the best results on specific exams. They'll be, working through precision exams to take these and to really get set up for, for mastery of these skills and knowledge. And then in preparing for this presentation, I talked to a good number of, nurse and medical field friends of mine. They all use simulations in their careers for either continuing education, or they're using simulations to actually get recertified in a lot of the skills that they use, whether they're, nurses or other medical professionals. So students are actually practicing sort of in an environment that is the same that they'll be encountering when they're actually on the job, continuing their education or getting recertified. So it's also meeting these kind of generic 21st century skills that everybody needs on the job when they are in these simulations. And then finally, it's these simulated environments, in quotes, there are, and I think Nancy mentioned this in the chat at the beginning, they're part of the work-based learning in the new Perkins funding language. And this is kind of pulled from that. It's, these scenarios or simulations are designed or supposed to foster in-depth, firsthand engagement with the tasks required in a given career field. And if you're doing that, which these simulations are, you are actually meeting that qualification for work-based learning to get Perkins funding. So they've broadened that in the newest version of the Perkins bill. And it really does allow for utilizing these simulations to meet that need and requirement. And that's a great opportunity to seek out simulations, no matter where they are or who they come from. Obviously, we love ours, and we highlighted them here today. But they are great opportunities for all the reasons we've discussed to provide wonderful experiences and resources for students as they're working through all types of courses. I answered a question about sports medicine. Yes, there are simulations in sports medicine. I'll need to check about the externships for nursing and medical assisting, I think was one of the questions. I just happen to know that Farm Tech one is one of the more advanced. If Nicole is on and is able to chat at this moment, she might have some additional information about the extent of other externships in our other programs. But I think with that, we do have a few minutes for any other questions.
There was a question about EMS, anything specific for emergency medical services. And then the other was nursing. Well, you said nursing, and then in her question, she had nurse aide and phlebotomist.
Yeah, phlebotomy, yes, and nurse aide, yes, absolutely. I don't think, and I think I'd have to check on the EMT.
Well, I know what you showed us, there was a paramedic. I mean, so that was a broader, but
Yeah.
probably
That's in DHO, which is designed specifically to to introduce and for students to understand all levels of those. But as far as a full program or on that specifically, I think I can check on that one.
Okay. Well, I think if you don't have it, maybe that could be your
yes.
Some of this could serve as your kind of influencer of what might be needed.
Folks are asking, we want to deliver. Absolutely.
Okay, any more questions?
Keeping an eye on the chat. Yeah, anything else?
I see a lot of thank yous, very helpful. And Tracy mentioned that this would be even helpful for students in science, we'll call it regular or academic science courses, that some of this would be helpful to them. It looks like you have one more slide there.
Yeah, I actually forgot about this one. These simulations, a lot of the ones that we showed are actually a part of the HOSA Virtual International Leadership Conference coming up. We've partnered with HOSA this year to create a MindTap Simulation Center. And this is actually a competition for students to take while they are virtually at HOSA. It opens up for 3 days and students can go in and actually work through these simulations. They will get scored, and the top scores are eligible for scholarships, $1,000 scholarships to students. Also, there's a separate scholarship for advisors that have the most number of students who complete the simulation center tasks at the HOSA virtual ILC this year. So we've kind of introduced some of these. Your students will get a chance to use them for free all week at the HOSA VILC coming up later this year. So that's another exciting opportunity for your students. If they're members of HOSA and plan to attend, they'll actually get a chance to explore all of these for the days that HOSA is open for them. And possibly, if they do really well, get a scholarship. So that's another great opportunity that I'm happy I didn't forget, since this was just the last little piece tagged on to the end, but also a really exciting kind of announcement for us and our partnership with HOSA this year as well.
There's a I think we have time for this one last question from Vicky Lyle there in the chat.
These range. The digital access for 1 year is $50 or actually $30 for these programs. So that's just one example. Obviously a longer subscription or license costs a little bit more, between maybe 90 and 150, depending on the program. And I mean, if you are interested in, this wasn't a sales pitch. We just kind of wanted to show some of the examples from our programs, but you can always find out more from your National Geographic Learning Cengage sales rep at ngl.cengage.com. You can find your rep there, and feel free to reach out to them, ask any questions. They can get you access, trial access to any of these programs, including ones that we didn't show, because like Noe said, there were so many, it was hard to choose what to pick. So that's always available as well for, pricing and samples of any of these, so you can see them yourselves. Good, Noe, thanks. Put in the Find My Rep link. You just put in your zip code and it'll tell you who to reach out to for more information on these simulations that are built into MindTap for all of our programs. I will stop sharing. And I know we're just right at the hour, so I think unless there was anything else, we can give folks a couple minutes back in their evenings today. Noe, thank you so much, and thank you all again for taking some time with us today. I hope you took away something that was fun and interesting.
Well, we thank you to the National Consortium for Health Science Education. Appreciate your membership with our organization as a part of the Publishers and Educational Resource Providers Group, and appreciate you sharing this today. And the recording will be available early next week, archived on our website. Thank you so much, Cengage friends.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.